And on the phone with me right now, we have Norman Fox of the Rob Roys. Good morning, Norman.
Good morning. How are you, Rick?
I'm doing good. You're out there on the West Coast, aren't you?
I am. As a matter of fact, I overslept a little bit.
Uh-oh.
So I was worried that I might miss the interview, but I jumped into the shower and I'm ready to go.
There we go. So tell us about the Rob Roys and how y'all came way back in 1956, how you got together.
Well, you know, in the mid 50s, we started to hear about this new type of music called rock and roll. In my area of the country, it was a guy named Alan Freed, and he actually coined the name rock and roll music. And he was on the radio. I think he had an hour show every night on INS radio.
Yep.
And once I started listening to the music, I just got enchanted with it. It was different than the usual and the normal pop music that we used to listen to in those days. And I just fell in love with it. And so did a lot of people around me. And so we started to emulate the sounds that were coming out of our radio. And we started singing group a cappella music. And there would be 3 or 4 guys in harmony and a lead singer. And we would sing those wonderful songs that came out of Alan Freed's show, which was a mixture of rhythm and blues, of jazz, of gospel, and many different kinds of music. And it was all put together, and it became this thing called rock and roll music, and we wanted to emulate it. And so we got some guys from the neighborhood and guys that we went to school with, and we started to sing. And actually, what happened was that in the boys' bathroom at the school, there was an echo, and it sounded better than being just in a flat room. So we started singing in the bathroom, and that's how we got started.
Yep. You guys are actually from the Bronx. That was your neighborhood, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So you, the guys who were with you were, I think, was Bob Trotman, Andre Lilly, Robert Thierer, is that his name? The baritone singer, and Marshall Buzzy Heflin, who sang bass. Yeah,
that's correct.
Interesting
these guys.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead.
These guys were 3 guys were from the neighborhood. Don't forget, we were a mixed race group. We were the first mixed race group in the country just before the Dell Vikings, and so the two guys that were black guys were from Harlem. They went to our high school, which was at DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx, and then the other 3, which was myself, Buzzy Helfand, and Bob Thera, we came from the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So we got together in school. That's where we formed the group, basically. And that's how it started.
You got signed with a label that I really love the name of, the Backbeat label, which is kind of funny because that's the name of the show.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say this. Well, with the telephone delay, that happens a lot. You know, the Backbeat label is very fond to my heart because that's the name of my show, is the Backbeat Show. So, tell us about. Oh,
that's great.
Yeah. So tell us about the label in '57 and what happened there.
It's an interesting story. Backbeat label was a subsidiary of a label called Duke Peacock, and they're out of Houston, Texas. And they were primarily a black label, and they used to have many, many big stars that performed on the Chitlin circuit. I'm thinking of people like Big Mama Thornton.
Oh yeah,
and many of the great stars were on that label. And then at one point he had a number 1 hit in the country called "Pledging My Love" by Johnny Ace. And he became a wealthy guy. His name was Don Roby, and he wanted to have he wanted to get into more of a doo-wop, and he wanted to get into having some more white artists. so he was looking for this, and we just happened to have a connection in the Bronx in a record shop that was so small you couldn't get we couldn't audition. We couldn't get the whole group into the record shop to audition.
That's a small shop.
His A&R man saw us, and he liked us. He liked what he saw, and so they signed us, and that's how we got on that label.
Wow. And as a matter of fact, created rock and roll and doo-wop history back in those days.
In those days, yes, it was the first one. Our record was released, and then I think a couple of weeks later, the Del Vikings record was released, Come Go With Me, and they were also a mixed race group, and then and the Crests and on with other people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a tough period of time, because when we were traveling, we had some problems, especially in the South, with accommodations and the fact that we all wanted to stay in the same hotel. And in those days, there was segregation. It was just crazy.
That kind of brings up a memory. I was talking with some of my other friends who were on the circuit, the Chitlin circuit, and they were talking about their experiences as black artists, and they were solid black bands. These guys, I'm talking about Maurice Williams and a couple of other guys that were traveling the circuit back in those days. So you ran into the same kind of problem, despite the fact you were a mixed race group.
Actually, we probably had a worse problem because of the fact that that we were a combination, mm-hmm. and there was more. I felt that there was more animosity against us mm-hmm. than there was against the guys who were black in the group.
Yeah, from everybody but the music lovers, right?
Everybody but the music lovers.
That's
music lovers only love musical notes. They don't see anything else.
That's right. Let's fast forward to the present day, and I understand you got a gig coming up, speaking of New York radio, with WABC's Cousin Brucey soon, don't you?
I do. It's on the 9th of September, and it's an outdoor concert. It's in New Jersey. It's at the PNC Bank area. It's an arena, and it's just outside of New York in Humboldt, New Jersey. And if any of your friends are in the area or any of your listeners, we'd love them to come by and say hello. I'm excited about it. There's going to be the Drifters, and there's going to be let me see. Jay Siegel's Tokens are going to be there, mm-hmm. and Frankie Avalon is going to be there.
Oh, wow.
So we're looking forward to having a great show. I'm excited about doing it, and I'm looking forward to it. It's great.
Speaking of Cousin Brucey, did you ever do any of the Palisade Park gigs with him back in the day when he was doing those across the river?
You know something? I did not do the Palisade Park gigs, but when I was a kid, I went to Palisade Park, and when they mentioned it to me, the first thing that I thought of, they had a big saltwater pool, and the pool, at the end of it, there was a huge a waterfall, and the thing that comes back to me is being under that waterfall. So the first thing that I thought of when I thought of Palisades Park was being under the waterfall. But no, I never did. I never did the shows out there.
Mm-hmm. Wow, there's some great memories. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning and getting us all caught up with what's going on with you. And good luck with your gig with the Cousin Brucey coming up. Do you have any other gigs coming up, maybe out there on the West Coast or something?
Yeah, we do. We have a gig coming up on December 10th. It's a Christmas show, and it's going to be at Cerritos Performing Arts Center. That's in Cerritos, California. It's just south and east of Los Angeles. It's a great venue, and if any of your listeners are from this area and want to join us, we'd love to see them. And then on the 3rd of December, I'm going back to New Jersey, and I'm doing a venue that's one of my favorite venues. It's the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey.
Yeah, I know it.
Count Basie was from Red Bank. And when I was a kid, I worked for Capitol Records. Before I was an entertainer, they signed me. I worked for Capitol Records as assistant to the studio director, and I met Basie. And so it's always a thrill for me to play that area. I just love it. And then we're doing a cruise next year, and we have other shows back in New York. So I don't do a lot, but I do them intermittently, and I just love performing, and I love seeing the fans.
Norman Fox of the Rob Roys, thank you very much for being with us today. And if you'd hold the line, I've got a couple of things I want to check with you just to make sure I got some information right. So Norman Fox of the Rob Roys, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Rick. Take care. I'll hold on.